All right. We are jumping straight into history today.
Yep, no messing around.
The goal is pretty simple. We're going to give you a rapid-fire, high-impact breakdown of the 12 most critical moments that, you know, basically shaped all of human history.
And we're not just talking about what happened, we're getting into why those shifts created the world you're living in right now.
Exactly. It's all connected.
Think of it like a chain reaction.
Yeah.
Every single major breakthrough, it didn't just solve an immediate problem. It set the stage for the next one. You'll see just how fast we learned.
Okay, so let's start at the absolute earliest point, the one that, well, allowed us to be more than just another animal, the discovery of fire.
We're talking hundreds of thousands of years ago. This was the first massive tool we didn't have to carry.
Right.
Fire gave you immediate, essential warmth, which was just vital for surviving cold nights, and of course, it was protection.
From predators.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
exactly. Predators are instinctively afraid of bright flames and smoke, so they'd stay away. It instantly made our ancestors safer.
But I think the most fascinating part is how it physically changed us. Cooking food, it's like you're pre-digesting it, right?
It is. It makes it so much easier for the body to absorb nutrients and calories.
And that energy is key.
That energy efficiency is probably the key driver of our evolution. If you don't have to spend all day chewing tough, raw food, and your body isn't using immense energy just to digest it.
Then you can use that energy for other things.
For growing a bigger brain, a lot of scientists argue that this surplus energy unlocked by cooked food is directly responsible for the massive rapid growth of the human brain.
So fire didn't just keep us warm, it literally made us smarter.
It absolutely laid the groundwork, but it went further than just biology. Think about the social side of it.
People gathering around the campfire.
Right. Sharing that warmth and safety, it helped develop these complex social bonds. That communal time is very likely where complex spoken language started to develop.
And technologically, what did it allow us to do?
Well, control over fire let humans move into new, much harsher climates across the globe. Later on, that same heat was used to harden the tips of wooden spears, making them way more effective.
And then eventually, to melt metal.
Centuries down the line, yeah. Forging metals for better weapons, better tools. It was, the very beginning of controlling our environment.
That mastery sets the stage for our next gigantic turning point, the agricultural revolution. This is about 10,000 years ago.
This is when we stopped chasing our food and started growing it.
A huge shift.
The shift from nomadic hunting and gathering to settled farming. Growing crops like wheat and barley, keeping animals like cows and sheep. It's the definition of a revolution. The biggest change was permanence.
You can stay in one place.
Exactly. And when you stay put, you invest. Permanent settlements grow into villages, which then swell into the first organized towns and eventually the first cities.
But how could farming support a whole city? It must have been way more efficient.
It was. Agriculture generates so much more food per acre than hunting could ever provide. So, with all that extra food, the human population could grow much, much faster.
And more importantly, not everyone had to be a farmer.
That is the critical link.
Yeah.
If you don't need to find your own food every day, you can specialize.
I can be a potter, a builder, a priest.
Exactly. This is the birth of complex society. People start specializing, which leads to different jobs, different levels of wealth, and, eventually politics.
And that specialization drove technology, didn't it? Farming needed new tools.
Completely new engineering solutions. You needed the plow to turn soil, and you needed sophisticated irrigation systems to manage water. It was the first time we systematically engineered our environment on a massive scale.
Which brings up a new problem. How do you manage all this?
Yeah.
The surplus food, the specialized workers, the taxes.
You need records. Which brings us right into the age of information and connection, starting with the invention of writing in ancient Mesopotamia.
What's funny is that its initial purpose was so mundane.
Right. Writing wasn't invented for literature or poetry. It was an accounting system.
To keep track of trade and grain storage.
Yep. Just making simple marks on clay tablets. But here's the monumental leap. Writing meant knowledge no longer had to be memorized and passed down just by talking.
Records are fixed.
Precisely. Laws, histories, contracts, they could be preserved exactly as written, for generations. It created a kind of objectivity.
You're talking about the rise of bureaucracy. You can't really argue with a law that's carved into a stone tablet for everyone to see.
Exactly right. It helped leaders manage huge, diverse groups of people. It became the ultimate tool for collecting taxes and organizing big public works projects, like those irrigation canals we were just talking about.
And for scientists and philosophers, it meant they could record their discoveries. So others, maybe years or even centuries later, could study them and build on them.
It's the engine of continuous intellectual progress.
That progress eventually led to the tools that would physically spread those written ideas across the globe. The age of exploration, starting in the 15th century.
Yeah, European sailors started using better ships and new navigation tools like the compass to find new trade routes.
And it was all driven by money, right? The desire for spices, silk, gold.
It was, but this period kicked off the first true global exchange. It wasn't just gold flowing between continents. It was a rapid exchange of plants, animals, and ideas.
So potatoes and corn go to Europe, and horses and wheat go to the Americas.
And global trade just exploded. It also completely redefined our view of the world. Imagine living when the maps were just wrong. This period forced the creation of new maps that showed the true shape of the continents.
It connected the world more than ever before.
It did, but it's really important to acknowledge that this also brought immense conflict. The arrival of Europeans led to the displacement and devastation of indigenous peoples and cultures. It fundamentally reshaped the whole world.
That focus on geography and observation leads us perfectly to our next point.
Yeah.
The scientific revolution in the 16th and 17th centuries.
This is when we stop just relying on old texts and start using logic and experiments.
Right. Thinkers decided that the old traditions, the ideas from ancient thinkers like Aristotle, just weren't enough anymore. They began using structured experiments to understand nature.
This is the birth of modern science.
And it led to some fundamental discoveries. Isaac Newton studying gravity, the laws of motion.
And new tools like the telescope and microscope didn't just confirm ideas, they completely changed how people saw the world. Think about the shift in perspective when we learned the Earth orbits the sun, not the other way around.
It challenged everything.
It did. But the methodology here is the key takeaway, even more than the discoveries themselves.
You mean the scientific method?
Absolutely. Testing ideas, forming a hypothesis, proving it with observation and math that laid the groundwork for every single technological advance that followed. Evidence became more important than tradition or myth.
And that engine of discovery really roared to life in the 18th century with the Industrial Revolution.
This is where machines replace muscle, human and animal muscle.
The steam engine was the game changer, wasn't it?
It was. It powered massive factories, it powered the new railroads, and this reliance on coal and iron fueled the largest movement of people in human history.
Millions of people moved from small farms into cities to find work in factories. The whole structure of society changed.
And the result was mass production. Goods became cheaper and way more common because machines could make them so quickly.
Now hold on. While that created a lot of wealth, the life of the average worker was pretty brutal, right?
It absolutely was. The working conditions in those early factories were often terrible. Long hours, dangerous machines, very little pay. So while there was immense progress, it was definitely built on immense hardship.
Okay, on that note of human cost, let's pivot to something that focused on extending human life, the development of vaccines.
Maybe the single greatest public health breakthrough ever. For centuries, diseases just wiped out huge parts of the population. Then doctors like Edward Jenner created the first vaccine for smallpox. And later, Louis Pasteur proved that germs cause infections.
The idea behind vaccines is just genius. You're basically running a controlled drill for your immune system.
It's a perfect description. It teaches your body how to fight off the real dangerous threat before you even get sick.
And the global impact was immediate.
Instant and profound. Life expectancy shot up. Childhood mortality plummeted. Dangerous epidemics like polio could finally be controlled. It totally changed society by letting people live decades longer.
So from extending the length of our lives, we moved to shrinking the size of our world with the first flight in 1903.
Yeah, the Wright brothers flew for just 12 seconds.
Barely 12 seconds.
But in those 12 seconds, every assumption about long-distance travel became obsolete. Before that, crossing an ocean took weeks.
And engineers jumped on it immediately, improving the designs. Soon planes could carry passengers and cargo across the world in just hours.
It's the ultimate shrinking mechanism for the planet. And its impact goes way beyond just convenient travel. It created global supply chains, it changed international business, and it completely changed warfare.
Now we're getting into the modern era, which is defined by, well, computing and connectivity. First up, The space age.
The space age kicks off in the mid-20th century. Getting humans off the Earth and to the moon in 1969 was just this ultimate expression of human ingenuity. It required this massive coordination between engineers, physicists, mathematicians.
But it wasn't just about planting a flag on the moon. The practical benefits affect us every single day.
Oh, absolutely. Think about satellites. They provide global communication, weather forecasting, and of course, navigation systems like GPS.
My phone's map wouldn't work without it.
Exactly. Modern life, from calling a friend across the world to checking traffic, just wouldn't be possible without the infrastructure built during the space age.
And that massive computational power needed for the moon missions led directly into our next turning point, the digital revolution.
The invention of the computer and the internet. It's hard to overstate the change here. The first electronic computers filled an entire room and were slower than the smartphone in your pocket right now.
And now we have these devices that connect us instantly with anyone, anywhere in the world. It's completely changed how we learn, work, and live.
This is the democratization of knowledge. Information that used to be locked away in libraries is now available with a few clicks. We're in the information age, where data is probably the most valuable resource on Earth.
So as the world got smaller and more connected, we had to agree on some ground rules, which brings us to global human rights.
Yeah, after the horrors of 2 world wars, countries came together to agree on a set of basic, non-negotiable rights for every single person.
The idea being that everyone deserves freedom, dignity, and safety, no matter who they are or where they're from.
And this agreement helped pressure nations to end unfair laws and improve the treatment of children, workers, and minorities. It formalized the idea that certain standards of justice should apply everywhere.
And international organizations like the United Nations were formed to help work on big problems like poverty and disaster relief.
Right. And while it's always a struggle, these principles guide modern governments toward, justice and respect.
Our final, and still very much unfolding, turning point needs everyone on Earth to cooperate. Environmental awareness.
This is the realization that our actions have a massive cumulative impact on the health of the planet. At first, it was about local pollution, smog in cities.
But now we know it's global.
Now scientists have shown that using fossil fuels is altering the climate and hurting wildlife on a global scale. And that understanding has sparked this huge global effort.
And the solutions are creating a whole new economy. We have large-scale recycling, new tech for clean energy from wind and sun.
And protecting huge ecosystems like forests and oceans has become a major global priority. The key insight here is that the planet is one interconnected system.
So even small changes can make a huge difference if everyone does them.
That's the idea.
So we just went through 12 massive world-altering shifts, from the controlled flame of the first fire to the global effort to protect our climate. These moments really prove that human history is defined by our ability to invent, to question, and at the end of the day, to connect.
And understanding this chain of events helps you see how quickly the world has changed. And it shows you how much power innovation driven by curiosity and collaboration really holds. Knowing this history helps you recognize the next turning point when you see it.
Good luck with your studies.